The land of the free, the land of the opportunities, where you can create a life you want, say what you want, regardless of your race, religion, nationality, political affiliation. Where you can start a business for a rich Anglophone community, buy a house. The United States. Oh wait, this is a video about Canada. Imagine you're an oppressed immigrant in a poor-ass country wanting to get a future. Your mother has died from cancer because healthcare is an alien concept unheard in your traditional godlike country.
The pathway to enlightenment starts with an unfettered, focused mind. Look out!
Your father died in a military operation from a drone. But who cares? Your country has a nuclear bomb, so you can bomb the same shithole bordering you anytime. You decide to immigrate to a country with a maple leaf flag. You basically changed one British colony over the other. Perhaps you would like to get a roof over your head. Well, how about you? Fuck off! $2,500 for a one-bedroom apartment in downtown Toronto, next to a fucking ghetto. Are you fucking serious? Unless you're an obnoxious investment banker in a suit, you'd be better off skipping the extra steps and go straight to the Moss Park to join the meth heads. But what about buying a property? Okay, let's try that again. What about buying a... What if you want to buy a property? How about a miraculous offer of $3 million for a Minecraft-type box in Vancouver? At this point, you can find a castle in France for this price. At least you'll get great weather and beautiful landscapes. Please tell me it's not real. But surely, there has to be an accessible housing option for the people of low income. 600,000 in this anthill, in the literally worst city on this entire continent. Except Houston. At this point, you can just drop a nuclear bomb on this city and Canadians will say thank you. It shouldn't be a surprise to everyone that if you have to pay $3 million for a shoebox house where the wages do not catch up with the inflation, you will have a rampant homelessness problem. And if you live in a big city in Canada, trust me, you will see it. Or if you think it's fake news, just go to Moss Park. You will absolutely enjoy it. The overall cost of living, especially in the cities like Toronto and Vancouver, is absolutely ridiculous. Like, what do you mean I have to pay $5 for a latte? It's not even easy latte. It doesn't look that much different from your regular Tim Hortons Goblin Spitz called a coffee. Don't forget the 15% tips for your serving yourself your coffee and 25% if an employee said hi to you. But hey, a lot of these guys are still able to save money and buy dope or something stronger. Like, I never get it. How the fuck these dudes are supposedly poor and don't have their basic needs met, but hey, they get to spend their last cents to get more extra pot. Nice.
If we don't clear the contaminant.
And if in the mornings they are relatively safe and well behaved because they are in that vegetable stage, then in the evenings, and more specifically nights, you wish you don't encounter them under the influence. Like, oh god, some of them have nothing better to do than just harass people at night because they lost all control of themselves. And hey, this is a first world country, not that poor as shithole you came from, right? And how about French separatists in the east of the country? When Canada was colonized, the Frogs managed to do it first, and therefore you have this French-speaking enclave in the east. They still speak French original, basically even more broken French.
420s! 420s what?
So even French think they are from a Muslim country when they speak it.
What do you think is the worst accent?
The worst is the French from Quebec, I think.
At some point, English was the dominant language in the biggest Quebec city, Montreal, but the traditional Catholic Frenchies managed to outbreed them. In the 70s, these smoked meat enjoyers tried to separate from the rest of the country because they thought that they were oppressed. As if they are not oppressed now by their provincial government spending the half of their salary in taxes. But you are not ready for this conversation yet. The Pierre Trudeau's government, yes, the father of Justin and the grandpa of this dude. Anyways, as a consequence of Quebec's movement out, Pierre Trudeau decided to handle the situation in the most Canadian and democratic way ever. You guessed it. He invoked the War Measures Act, which is basically a nice way to call the martial law. After that, they tried to separate again in the 90s, but they didn't succeed by a very narrow margin. You know, they had a real referendum, not like somewhere in Eastern Europe, where your republic has 99% of vote share. This whole situation resulted in the official bilingualism in Canada, so even in rural village in British Columbia, they will have French signs, so some Louis in Quebec doesn't get offended. Quebec even provided Canada with their own separatist party on the federal level, Bloc Québécois. In short, this is a fringe party which has a lot of votes in Quebec, which is why they keep succeeding in getting lots of seats. Their whole program is a collection of populist statements like "You have to respect Quebec" or "Québécois are proud people and we demand that Canadians respect our sovereignty," and other shit like that. The only reason they exist is to keep bending the federal government to grant Quebec benefits. You cannot tell me that their leader Blanchet is a real person. The type of shit he says is comparable to that of Trump or Putin.
We are, either we like it or not, part of an artificial country with very little meaning.
The whole Quebec is mostly fiscally left, but at the same time, they really don't love immigrants. And the rest of Canada? They surely love immigrants when Toronto population has 50% of the population born outside Canada.
Impossible.
I mean, the previous government decided that it can import immigrants from the third world countries at the astronomical rates, including my critical ass. The whole population of Canada is comparable to that of Ukraine with 40 million people, despite it being the second largest country by the landmass. During the recent years, the population growth reached its historical heights and increased dramatically. The type of immigrants was also much more different from what it was before. Now it's mostly people from the lower developed countries, and the overall quality of the immigrants is lower, being mostly cheap temp workers for the local factories. Even generally pro-immigrant Canadian mentality
Canada
was absolutely powerless when such amounts of immigrants of a very different culture flooded the country. And look, there's nothing wrong with being an immigrant. These Indian dudes are working, so shut the fuck up when your Indian dude working minimum wage delivers your $5 Amazon package to your door in a blizzard, and don't make fun of their accent.
Just translator. Hi there, can I get a small steep tea with 1 milk? Small steep tea with 1 milk?
The main problem is that this uncontrolled immigration policy drove the prices even higher. At the same time, the wages remain low because these guys are happily ready to work in slave conditions because the local minimum wage is still higher than the average yearly salary in their country of origin. Isn't it lovely? The immigration policy became so bad that even Trudeau's government admitted it was a horrible decision and put a cap on the amount of students arriving here. Alongside this, the permanent residency programs became even more inaccessible. So good luck being an immigrant in Canada now. Now you have more chances of winning a green card lottery and a special Tesla with a Hugo Boss drip in it than obtaining a PR in Canada. As if Canada didn't have billions and billions problems on its own, the newly elected minority president in the Wild South decided to enter a complete Putin mode and start dreaming about the lost territories and cry for the old great America. Apparently, Mr. President decided that Canada is not a real state, and he can just win it in a game of golf. Soon enough, his pills took effect and he softened his rhetoric.
I love Canada.
But then, the time he spent with Mr. You must say please resulted in him having another session of schizophrenia, and he started threatening the whole world with tariffs. Canada especially felt it, because according to Trump, they had an influx of fentanyl and illegal immigrants, which is less than 1% of Mexican numbers. But who the fuck needs these statistics? They're eating the dogs! Haven't you forgotten? Or the geese in the Canadian case. In any case, Canadians got real scared, so even Quebec remembered how does a maple leaf look like. Moreover, the Liberals, plummeting in every poll you could count, managed to pull a historical comeback, so even the Conservative leader lost his seat in his own riding. I think the Republicans in the US must have been very happy seeing one Liberal government leave and instead another one come. Truly a genius.
You know, Putin said Donald Trump is a genius.
An out of a deal. But Canadian Conservatives were not the biggest losers of these elections. The even bigger ones became the New Democrats, which is basically a Canadian Social Democratic Party. From having an almost 20% of support, they dropped to a fraction of that, winning only 7 seats. Let's take a look at the Canadian party leaders. You had a handsome populist, a nerdy populist,
Waheguru Chika Khalsa, Waheguru Chiki Fateh.
a French populist, a socialist populist, and Green Party.
The word was F-A-R-T.
I mean, you also have PPC, which is basically an AFD of Canada. The only thing I love about them is their political ad, where they try to threaten Canadians with commie blocks from Russia. Having the handsome populist resign, you got another one, an older one, but much more qualified for the position. I kinda hope he also has a son or a grandson who sings shitty rap so he can have a feud with Trudeau's son. Now, from being a multi-party system, Canadian politics headed towards the US type 2-party system, where only 2 parties can actually win the election. My advice for Canadians would only be to elect politicians who are no less than 70 or even better, 80 years old. In that way, they can even better embrace the US type politics. They already had first past the post system, now they have 2 parties. They even have their own Texas called Alberta, where the most obnoxious people live. I can't understand why they are like that. Only super cold and super hot weather, the worst city infrastructure imaginable. But hey, they have mountains. That must be nice. However, you know what? I remember that Winnipeg also exists, so Albertans are cool. Plus 37 degrees in summer, in fucking Canada. Are you fucking kidding me? In the early May. But get ready for minus 40 in winter. What a lovely city. Public transit is... I didn't want to speak about the bad, right? Wrong! The overall car-centric culture is a fucking source of a lot of other problems as well. For 60 years, Canadians were building this shitty, sprawling, lifeless suburbia throughout the whole continent. They bulldozed hundreds of the otherwise great downtowns and historical places, just cause one more lane will solve all of our congestion problems. Yeah, bro, sure thing. How awful was the traffic before? And look at it now. Now there are no congestion problems. But trust me, one more lane will fix it. At this point, just bulldoze the CN fucking tower for an extra parking. Why half measures? But back to being serious. What Canada has done with its infrastructure was a disaster. Unlike Netherlands, who reversed their failed policies, Canada decided to win it and go on. This is what gave birth to these soulless cities, where if you don't own a car, come on, even low-income students choose to have a car, because otherwise, your existence becomes absolutely miserable. For grocery shopping, you have to cross a 6-lane highway, walk at least an hour, and pray that the local SUV doesn't hit you, because it's so big that literal tanks have better visibility. And trust me, I've done this myself, so pretty often I was feeling like the chicken in crossroads. Bike lanes. Are you fucking kidding me? As soon as you mention these forbidden words, these dudes will hunt you down and spam you with this shit like roads are for cars, we already have congestion problems, you are stealing our space. Bro, you already have 401 with up to 18 fucking lanes at its widest. It's like telling that Ukrainian territories are a must when you have more than half of your landmass with no people living there. All the tourist guides and photos of European countries often have their architecture there. What is Canada usually about? Yeah, nature. Take a look at this lovely Canadian fall somewhere outside the city. Because the closest city looks like the exact city somewhere in the American Deep South. If you want a more or less acceptable infrastructure, you move to Toronto, Montreal or Vancouver. But I think we have already discussed why this is a bad idea. But even if, despite all the previous points, you still want to visit Canada, I mean, where do you want to go? Toronto, Niagara Falls, and Montreal I heard is a great city. But that is pretty much it. And you don't even need to bother. Right after you arrive to the CN Tower, you won't last long. You will get overrun by a local driver on a 6-lane highway right inside the downtown. Falls are great to visit one time, and maybe I can agree with Montreal. But that is pretty much it. You are not going to Vancouver, because the flights inside the country cost more than the flights to the US. Otherwise, you're literally limited to the nature, which is truly great. More so in the fall, that I can second. Otherwise, it is expensive and boring for tourism. Why people usually go to Canada is the easy immigration, rule of law, high wages, and the freedom from judgment by the people, and which is also true. Bye.